Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Paulette, and today I'll be talking about mental health in school. So, a little bit about me. I am Paulette, the founder of MindBridge. MindBridge is a youth-led community where youth-led mental health community where we seek to create a safe space for everyone to communicate, just be themselves, and have a community to just be yourself. So let's get into it. A lot of times when we hear mental health, we immediately immediately think of things like depression or anxiety. And those things are very important conversations. But today I want to focus on something a little different, the everyday mental health struggles that are built into school life and often go unnoticed or unspoken. Most of us don't wake up thinking I am depressed. We wake up thinking I'm already behind. Let me know if you relate to this. And when I say behind, I just don't mean academically. Also, that's a very big part of it. But I mean behind on assignments, behind on studying, behind on expectations, behind compared to other people. For a lot of students, the first thought of the day isn't how am I feeling. It's what do I need to do to catch up on. It could be catching up with friends, school, assignments, it could be family, home, whatever. And that constant sense of being behind is actually one of the most common ways mental health struggles show up in school. When we talk about mental health, we often imagine something extreme, like someone being visibly upset or having a breakdown. But in school, mental health struggles are often much more quieter. They look like pressure, constantly worrying about your performance. It could be your performance, how you present yourself in school, around your friends, at home. It could look like you can never really turn your brain off. So you are constantly trying to do something. And it's great to accomplish a goal in your life, but needing rest is very important as well. You can be doing fine on the outside, getting good grades, showing up every day, and still feel overwhelmed inside. And that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. This brings me to something called academic guilt, which is something many students experience even if they don't have a word for it. Academic guilt is when you feel guilty for resting, when you feel bad for taking a break, when you feel lazy even though you are exhausted. It doesn't have to be when it shows up visibly. It can be emotionally, always trying to get something done. It's great to get something done, but you need to have breaks in between, which is important. Instead of resting and feeling refreshing, it feels stressful, like you are doing something wrong, always trying to push yourself to your limit. Burnout in school doesn't always look like giving up. A lot of time looks like pushing yourself harder and harder while feeling worse mentally, but you just can't stop yourself. In school, productivity slowly becomes tied to your self worth, which I call productivity equals your self worth. Many students tie their self value to their grades. They depend on their grades to see how they value themselves or how they think others value them. Grades stop being just grades, they become part of how you define yourself. So when you do well, you feel really good. You feel you are on top of everything. And when you don't, it feels personal. It feels like you are failing. Even one bad test can feel like proof that you are not smart enough. Or one missed assignment can make you feel you have failed as a person. It sometimes can go extreme for some students when they tie themselves to their grades or their productivity to their self worth. And when you value And when your value is measured by your performance, your mistakes don't feel like you're learning. It feels like a failure. Mi- Having mistakes in your life is something that happens, which is great. It doesn't always have to be framed as a bad thing because mistakes help us grow. One of the hardest parts of mental health in school is that a lot of it is invisible. Some of the most stressed students are the ones who still show up every day. They smile to you, they still turn in their assignment, they say I'm fine, or they behave like they are fine. And because of that, they often don't get checked on. Not because people don't really care about them, but because they don't look like they are struggling. They don't come up to you saying, "Hey, I'm struggling, I need help." They don't. And sometimes some people don't have access to that. They just don't know how to express themselves. So I would encourage you, if you have a friend, if you're feeling down, talk to them, ask them, "How are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help?" Even if you cannot offer every help they need, you can be a starting point for them. And just remember, just because someone is functioning doesn't mean they are okay. Another major factor in student health is constant comparison. We are surrounded by other people's achievements, college acceptances, leadership positions, awards, and accomplishments, especially online. When you see everyone else progress all the time, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind, even if you're doing your best. Wait, so for example, on the internet, you see other people sharing what they got on their SAT, for example, you begin to compare yourself and your lifestyle to their lifestyle. But you have to remember that comparing yourself to others when you don't know anything about your life but what they choose to present to you isn't healthy. You should rely on what you have. You should rely on what you are given and the opportunities you have to make something out of it, not what others are showing online, because what others are showing online is what they present to you. So when you feel behind, it's because you're constantly measuring yourself against others, often without seeing the full picture of what others are dealing with. School is very good at teaching students to succeed, and that is great. It teaches us how to meet our deadlines, how to perform well, how to achieve our goals. But it doesn't always teach us how to struggle. There isn't there isn't always space to say I'm overwhelmed. I don't think you probably have a class that you just go to talk about how your day went or how you're feeling mentally. So without feeling like you are making excuses, there isn't a space to say I'm struggling, I'm overwhelmed, and I need space or I need help without feeling like you're weak or you're making excuses. So instead, many students learn to push through silently and call it a responsibility, even when they are not okay inside. I want to I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself a few questions. Do you need to answer? You don't need to answer out loud. You just need to think about them. You can comment in the comment chat box if you need to. Have you ever felt anxious even when you're doing well in school? Have you ever felt guilty for needing rest? If you ever felt either of this, you're not alone. These feelings are incredibly common. They are just rarely talked about. When we talk about mental health or helping students' mental health, we often hear vague advice like take care of yourself, but what actually helps is more specific. being more specific really help because then others know how to help others, how to help their fellow students, or even a student knows how to help themselves. It helps to recognize that the rest is part of progress, not something you have to earn. It helps to ask for support earlier instead of waiting until you're completely overwhelmed. And it helps to ask it helps to understand that you do not know you do not need to be at your worst to deserve help. Mental health support shouldn't be something we only talk about in emergencies. I think it's important to reframe how we think about mental health in school. Mental health isn't about fixing something that is broken. Most students aren't broken at all, really. They are just under constant pressure to do well, to succeed, to reach their goals. And when pressure is nonstop, it affects how people think, feel, and see themselves. Recognizing that is the first step towards change. I want to end this with a reminder you are allowed to learn, you're allowed to grow, you're allowed to struggle, and you are allowed to rest all at the same time. Thank you so much for listening and for being open to this conversation. Thank you.